with very heavy heart, I have to inform you that our chamber has lost one of the founder of the chamber, Shri Varilal Bhai Shah, was not only the founder of this chamber, but was a very supportive and helping personality to everyone. And he has, in his lifetime, helped so many people start the practice on taxation. The premises of the chamber, when we started our first fundraising drive, he was the one who brought maximum funds in the year 1985 so that our chamber could have an office. I would request all of you to remain silent for 1 minute in his respect. Om Shanti. Friends, this event of the public meeting on union budget is every year organized by Goregaon Sports Club and the Malad Chamber of Tax Consultants jointly since last several years. And this has been a program which is awaited by taxpayers and businessmen residing in this area along with tax professionals. I would, before we start the formal proceedings of this meeting, request President of our chamber, Sri Jignesh Bhai Savla, to address all of us and make us aware of the activities of the chamber. Jignesh Bhai.
Thank you, Yatin Bhai. Good evening, friends. I hereby extend my heartiest welcome to all of you to this Budget 2022 public meeting held jointly with Goregaon Sports Club. Yatin Bhai just talked about Sri Varilal Shah. I had not met him since a long time now due to these pandemic situations, but he always presented himself in a very determined manner. The past presidents of the chamber speak very highly of him and respected him a lot. His efforts toward the growth of the chamber will not be forgotten. Budget 2022 is quite growth oriented with high emphasis on capital expenditure, which in turn will create good job opportunities, thereby paving path for the growth of the economy. Bringing income from digital assets under the tax ambit is another highlight. Increasing customs duty on imitation jewelry and steel will help growth of the manufacturing industry in a long way. Provision for filing of updated returns is a welcome step, which will help the assessee avoid litigation and penalties. This budget gives more infra, more investment, more growth, and more jobs. As the president of the Malad Chamber of Tax Consultants, I would like to give you all a small introduction about the chamber. The chamber, popularly known as MCTC, is an association of more than 1,200 professionals, which includes company secretaries, chartered accountants, lawyers, sales tax practitioners, cost accountants, and other tax consultants. Our primary purpose is to spread the knowledge, and for this we conduct 10 to 12 study circle meetings per year. Various seminars, joint seminars with other sister associations are conducted during the year. Our flagship event is today's event. Flagship event of the year is a budget public meeting of the year, which is attended by many people and is a very famous event awaited by everyone. The budget which we put, the budget publication of the chamber is prepared within 48 to 72 hours of the announcement of the budget, and it is a very analytical approach of the tool by making the book. This book is also awaited by various professionals very much. We have conducted a number of online study circle meetings during the last 2 years due to the pandemic. Since last 30 years, the chamber has also been organizing meetings like this public meeting. Large number of persons comprising of businessmen, industrialists, professionals, bankers, and general public take benefits of this meeting. The chamber also makes effective representations before the union and the state governments, and also the department authorities of direct tax, indirect tax, and company law. The chamber also organizes activities for providing practical training to graduate students on the subject of taxation, audits, and accounts. Membership of our chamber is available at a one-time lifetime membership fees of rupees 2,500 only. With that, I welcome you all and hand over the proceedings of the meeting to the chairman, Sri Yatin Anwala.
Thank you, Jignesh Bhai. At this meeting, we always release our publication. All this year, it used to be a physical meeting, wherein at the hands of dignitaries, we would release the most awaited budget publication of our chamber. To give you a very brief idea, this publication over these years, this is the 24th year of our publication. We have been bringing out this publication in 24 to 72 hours, right from the beginning. And not only it has got provisions on the analysis of direct taxes, which has been introduced by the finance bill, it also covers a very useful information on indirect taxes. Previously, it used to be excise, service tax, and the customs. Now, after the introduction of the GST, it is the GST and the customs that finds place in our book. This book, which has been published today, is generally taking efforts of almost more than 30 to 40 people. And friends, some of these people, they work overnight. They are awake late till night, till morning, and round the clock, before it goes to the print, the work is carried on. The editors, the compilers, the coordinators, in spite of this pandemic situation, who brought same number of clauses, same content, and in the same time. So I would request all of you to give them a loud applause. And we all are deeply grateful to them for their selfless contribution to this activity of chamber. As we are starting our first session on the impact of the budget in the capital market, and the speaker of the same is Sri Manish Bhai Choksi, I would request Joint Secretary of the Malad Chamber, Sri Rajan Bhai Vora, to formally introduce him to all those who are present in this meeting. Rajan Bhai.
Hello, I am audible?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Good evening, everybody. On behalf of MCTC, it's gives me immense pleasure to introduce our today's esteemed speaker, CA Sri Manish R. Choksi. Sri Manish R. Choksi, a chartered accountant by qualification of 1984 batch. Since 1996, he branched off from the field of traditional tax and audit practice to make foray in capital markets. He has done deep research in the area of capital market and especially in the technical analysis since the last more than 25 years. He has developed number of strategies for the trading and investing in stocks and indices like Nifty and Bank Nifty. He is investor and aggressive trader in future and option in stocks and indices. He has developed strategies for trading and investing in algorithm trading. Algorithm trading means fully computerized trading, an investment system without human interventions. He is consultant to various stockbrokers and high net worth individuals in the capacity as market analysis in stocks, currencies, and commodities. He has conducted number of workshops and seminars on educating chartered accountants and the professionals on subject of technical analysis at ICAI, the Malad Chamber of Tax Consultants, CTC, and many other professional and non-professional associations. He addressed public meeting on impact of budget on capital market every year at various professional and the non-professional bodies, especially at Goregaon Sports Club. His expert knowledge and rich experience on the subject of stock market would help us in understanding the market movement and future trend of the Indian stock market. Now I request the Yatin Bhai to continue.
Thank you, Rajan Bhai. I now request our learned speaker, Sri Manish Bhai Choksi, to please address us and give his view the impact of this budget on the capital market.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Am I audible clearly? Yeah.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Yeah, dear President, my dear friend Yatin, Chairman, all office bearers of the Malad Chamber, I can see Rajan, Khyati, and all dear participants of this today's meeting. Respect to all my seniors and dear friends, thank you for.
There is some disturbance between you.
I'm not here audible clearly.
No, sir, you are audible, but some disturbance is there.
Now,
Sir, every time you speak, only then there's a disturbance. Is the speaker covered with something?
no, I'm speaking on airport.
Okay.
Oh,
Should I shift to my mobile?
If possible,
Is
sir.
it?
if possible, if you can change the headphone, if possible.
I'll shift to mobile ID. Anyway. Okay, I'm not at all clear, or can we try to do?
No, sir, the moment you start speaking, there is a buzz sound in the
Yes.
background.
Yeah.
That's only better. Yeah, Andhra Ajay?
Sir, can you switch to a wired headphone if possible?
Yeah, I'll try to.
This might be because of a Bluetooth headphone that you're
Yeah,
using.
yeah, okay.
Yes, yes.
There is some disturbance, so okay, clear then, sir. There is some disturbance. I want to change the network. बंद कर लो ऐसे अचानक हो गया स्टार्ट करिए हेलो am I audible? No.
Still the same, sir.
You're audible, but every time you speak, there's a buzz. There's a buzz undertone to the way when you speak.
There is buzz. There is a buzz when you speak. यहाँ microphone चालू कर दीजिए.
Or else, sir, remove the headphones completely if possible.
Hello. Hello. Am I clear? Am I audible?
It is still similar, sir, but
Change करो.
can you join from your mobile as you were suggesting earlier?
I'll change my laptop. The let it be seen.
Okay.
I have one more laptop. Please excuse me, just 2 minutes. Sorry.
Sorry to the audience for the inconvenience. These are all technology side effects. Have you joined from your phone, sir?
Yes, yes, I'm trying to do. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Now you can hear me or the same problem?
It is the same still.
Yes, yes. Okay, I'll change the laptop. Yes, so. Mm.
You are on mute, sir. Manish, sir, you are on mute. I would request the audience to stay connected. Technology has its pros and cons. While it connects everyone, it can cause such problems as well.
Hello, am I clear? Hello, am I audible now?
Yes, sir, we can
Yes,
hear
yes.
you, sir. But we
Yes,
cannot see you, sir.
okay, I'll do it. Okay, am I clear? Now you
Yes,
can
sir.
see me, you can hear me. Can I
Yes,
start?
sir.
Yes,
Sir.
sir.
Much
Can I
clear.
start?
Much better.
I am extremely sorry for the problem, but anyway, okay, I'll just load my PPT. Please allow me to share the screen. Hello.
Just a second, sir. I'll do that. You've logged in with your which name?
Dr. Alpha Technology.
Okay.
I changed it to his name. He's already a co-host.
Okay. Sir, you are already a co-host. You can you should be able to share your screen.
Yeah. Can you see my screen now? Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Sorry for the delay. I think with all the slides, I'll whistle out all your time and hope to give you guidance so that you can make money in the stock market and you'll be. I'll see that would be my duty to all the participants to give results for giving a valuable time to this session. And thank you, Malak Chamber and Goregaon Sports Club, for inviting me to this very important and esteemed budget session and having confidence in me. Friends, I'll start with my talk on the budget impact on capital markets. And my slides will have combination of first I'll talk about the macroeconomics, the Indian macroeconomics. Then I'll talk about the budget. I'll talk about impact of budget on capital markets on various sectors. Then I'll talk about a few stocks where I'll give some ideas and study for discussion. So let me start with the first slide. This is the GDP, quarterly GDP. Now GDP, what is GDP? GDP is gross domestic product. And what is gross domestic product is the value of goods and services produced in a country in a year. So that is GDP, and the whole that is the funda of stock market all over the world. GDP. Now GDP, this data shows quarterly GDP of Indian economy, and you can see on the right hand side September 21. So quarter ending September 21, GDP was 8.4%. For June 21, it was 20%. That was because of pandemic. And now, before that, it was 1.6%. So this quarterly GDP is going haywire. You can see in June 20, it was minus 24%. This is all because of pandemic. But now we can see that in September 21, the issue is settled. So now we can, the GDP would be in the range of 8 to 9%. And as the Honorable Finance Minister said, during the budget, that the estimated GDP for financial year ending 22 would be 9.2%. So here is a slide which shows 9.2%. So 9.2% is a fantastic number, and we call it as the highest growth rate country in the whole world. So that's very impressive if we grow at 9.2%. Next slide shows that the IIP. What is IIP? IIP is Index of Industrial Collection. And you can see in this slide, the production, the manufacturing level in the country. In all these months, you can see the IIP has remained more or less stable and on a lower side, on a bit lower side. So in fact, the manufacturing activity has not really propelled as it should have been. But we are hopeful that with all these new provisions, the big vast budget, we'll see economic stabilizing and IIP also improving in months to come. So this inflation, we are all aware of inflation. Inflation is affects our day-to-day life. And unfortunately, inflation is going very high. You can see inflation at 5.6%, 5.6% in December 21. The RBI has set up a tolerance limit of 6%. The CPI is called as the Consumer Price Index, and the RBI set up a tolerance limit of 6%. So we are still below the tolerance limit of 6%, 5.6%. But even at 5.6%, the inflation is very, very high. If you compare the bank interest, if you put money in the bank deposit, the rate of interest today is 4.5%, or 4.7, up to between 4 and 5, maximum 5%, and inflation is 5.6%. So in short, the people who are investing in bank deposits, they are having negative rate of return. So that's a very unfortunate phenomenon. Inflation, this is the wholesale price index, which is at 13.56%, and last Feb it was just 4%. So this is also going very high. And if the manufacturing activity picks up, economic growth picks up, in that case only the inflation can come down. Unfortunately, inflation now has become a global phenomenon. Wherever, all over the world, inflation is going up. Even in US, we have inflation, 30 years highest inflation. Even in European countries, we have higher inflation. So now inflation is catching up all over the world, which is not a good sign. Fiscal deficit. What is fiscal deficit? Fiscal deficit is just difference between in revenue and expenditure. And for the government budgeting, there is no difference between capital expenditure and revenue expenditure. So whatever revenue is generated, maybe by way of taxes and even selling the assets or disinvestments, whatever you say, they are all considered as revenue. And whatever expenditure is made, whether it is for construction of buildings or giving subsidies, they are all considered to be an expenditure. So the difference between the income and expenditure is minus 6.9% of the GDP. So the expenditure is more than the income. And in the last 2 years, because of pandemic, the fiscal deficit has gone up. It was in the range of 3%, 4%. You can see in the earlier years, the range was 4%. And suddenly in 2021, the fiscal deficit has gone to 9.3%. And now estimated in this financial year at 6.9%. And for financial year 23, it is budgeted at 6.4%. But at 6.9 and 6.4 also, the fiscal deficit is not a good condition. But there is a catch between fiscal deficit and economic growth. If an attempt is made to control the fiscal deficit, then it hampers the growth of the economy also. So at times, it is good to have a higher fiscal deficit and higher growth, because higher growth will look after everything. So this is also, the Indian economy is okay with this fiscal deficit also, if growth follows by putting more money in the system. Now we can see the commodity prices are going very high. I have shown this slide. You can see the prices of aluminum, copper, crude oil, nickel, zinc. The percentage change in calendar year 2021. Calendar year 2021 compared with calendar year 2020. So between 20 and 21 calendar year, prices of aluminum has gone up by 38%, copper by 24%, crude oil by 56%. Now crude oil, India is highest importer of crude oil. And out of our total import bill, more than 25 to 30%, I think 30% of the total import bill of India is of oil, because we extract only 10 to 15% of oil of our total requirement. So 85% of our oil is imported. So when the prices go up to 56%, it has a bad impact on the economy, on the Indian economy. Nickel, zinc, all in a very high range. The commodity prices are going up all over the world, and that is affecting inflation. Therefore, inflation also rising. One of the reasons why inflation is going up because of the commodity price. Now, interest rate, all right. This slide shows the exchange rate USD, that is US dollar versus Indian rupee. And you can see as of December 2021, the exchange rate was 74.3%, 74.3 rupees. So $1 is equal to 74.3 rupees. And in earlier years, last year it was 73, earlier 71, and in December 2011, it was 43.8. So in the last 10 years, we have lost how much? Nearly 40% or 50%, more than 50% in terms of currency devaluation.
Now GST collection, uh, these are magical figure. In January, GST collection was 1.43 lakh crore. That is the highest GST collection. And this slide shows GST collections of FY20 and 21. The blue line is FY21 and the green line is FY20. And you can see throughout various months, GST collection for the last more than a year has stabilized. It was in the range of 120 lakh crore, 1.25, and now Jan is the highest at 1.5. That's a good sign. There is a huge collection with the government on account of GST. This slide shows the FII's investment in the Indian market. The FIIs are playing a very important role, and the trend of the market, has some bearing on the activities of the FIIs. Now you can see in the last few months, in the month of Jan, FI sold 28,000 crores. In the month of December 21, FI sold 19,000 crores. November 5,000 and October 13,000 crores. So you can see all these red figures they are selling, and above line, all green figures they are bought. So generally, if you see in the first part of the calendar year 2021, or you can say from Jan 21 to Jan 22, FI has been investing in the first two or 3 months, and then in the later half, FI has been selling in the Indian market. Now, once upon a time, when the DIs, that is the domestic institutions, including the mutual funds, FIs were playing a monopoly, was the monopoly player. But good, the Indian investors through the mutual funds, we are very well developed now, and you can see the slide. It shows investment by DIIs in the last 6 months. So what has happened? FI has been selling, and DIIs, that is the domestic institutional investors. So that includes mutual fund, LIC, and all the government investors, the Indian investors. So DIIs have been investing in the Indian market, and FI has been selling in the Indian market. Now this equation is more or less same throughout. Now I'll show you one slide which in one page it compares investment by FIs and investment by DIIs. The green line, the green bar is the DIIs, and the blue bar are the FIs. You can see whenever FIs are buying, DIIs are selling. So when it is below the line, they are selling, minus they are selling, and plus there is a buy. So if you see in the month of Jan, FIs bought 21,000 crores and DIIs sold 15,000 crores. In February last year, FIs bought 26,000, DIIs sold 16,000. And now, if you see in December 21, FIs sold 19,000 crores and DII, they bought 17,000 crores. So Indian institutes have become very strong. That's a welcome happening, and we are able to absorb the stock sold by the FI. So the impact is minimum. We are not so much disturbed by heavy selling by the FI. This is the whole picture of last year. FI invested 30,000 crores, DII invested 39,000 crores, and the Sensex was up by 24%. Now, the Sensex was up by 24%. This slide shows the sectorial analysis. That is the sector-wise gains made by each sector within the last calendar year. That is 21-22, starting from Jan 21 to Jan 22. Now you can see the power sector has made the maximum gain. So that means all the stocks in power sector have gained to the highest level compared to all other sectors. Now you can see the red bar, that is the BSE 30 Sensex, which was up by 25%. So the benchmark is 25%. BSE 30 up by 25%. And on the right hand side, you can see all the sectors which are grown above the BSE 30. And on the left hand side, you can see all the sectors which are up below the benchmark, that is the 25%. So FMCG, that consists of Hindustan Lever, Nestle, or you can say Marico, and all these companies, they have not performed, mainly because the demand disturbance because of COVID, and there was a margin pressure for these companies, FMCG companies. Health industry, they have been stagnant in the last year. there was a huge benefit to the health industry in the year previous to that. But largely last year, the health sector has underperformed the BSE benchmark of 25%. Auto sector up by 19% only compared to BSE 30. There is a problems about the chip and the manufacturing costs going up. The steel prices going up, that has direct impact on the automobile industry. And we all are aware about the chip cost of chip and the availability of, there is a acute shortage of chips, and that has led to slowing down of growth or the profits of automobile industry. On the right hand side, you can see mid cap going up by 36%, and the highlight is the small cap going up by 62%. Metal sector was up by 72%, comprising of Tata Steel, JSW Steel, and such other companies. Realty sector also outperformed the Sensex, up by 58%. And you can see IT sector is always above the benchmark year after year, though it was less than other sectors, but still it's 40% up compared to the BSE 30, 25% up. So you can see which sector has performed during the last year. We see power, metal, realty sector, IT sector, consumer durables or air conditioner and washing machine and all. Mid cap, oil and gas, and bank sector slightly above the BSE 30, and underperformance by FMCG, auto, and health sector. So this is the sector how various sectors performed the last year. Now this slide shows the BSE price earning ratio. PE ratio is a very famous and a very easy way to understand the valuation level. Of course, it is not possible to correctly say that the market is overvalued or undervalued just on the basis of this indication, but it gives you some idea about the level of the market, the valuation of the market. Now, what is PE? PE ratio is called as the price earning ratio. And what is price earning ratio? Price of a scrip divided by earning of the company per year. Now, give an example. Say the price of a particular scrip is say 100 rupees, and earning per share is 10 rupees. So we divide 100 by 10. What is the result is 10, which means that you need, when you invest 100 rupees in this particular stock, that will require 10 years for your return. So you cover your money in 10 years because the earning per share is 10 per year. So it takes 10 years to cover your investment. So that is a general benchmark. That is called as the price earning ratio. And historically, you can see now the price earning ratio latest, that is in the month of Jan, is 30. And on historical basis, above 21 is considered to be overbought zone. So anything above 21 is considered to be overbought. Now we are at 30. You can see how it has moved from 20.18 in the year 15-16 to 30 in the year 21-22. So from 20, 20, 23, 23, 26, 28, and 30. So in the last, say, 5 to 6 years, the P ratio has moved from 20 to 30. And of course, the market has been able to, now we cannot have a standard about 21, you don't buy or you sell. That's not what I am saying. But I want to say that at 30, we have to understand, we take a clue, or a clue, what is the clue that the market is richly valued? That is the clue which we can draw from this particular statistic. Now, we are very much aligned with the global market, with Dow Jones, especially with the Dow Jones. Now, every year I give you this slide, and my finding every year that the BSE and Dow, if you put a point, 1 year comparison. So we start from Jan 2021, the same date, and Jan 2022. And I have this slide on the comparison graph, which shows that Dow was up 10.6% in the last 1 year, and Indian market was up by 13%. So here, what is the meaning? That there is only 1 or 2% difference between Dow Jones and BSE at the end of 1 year. So either BSE is up or Dow Jones is up by 1 or 2% only. And in between, there would be wide differences. You can see in the month of April, the blue line is the Dow Jones and the red line is the BSE. So you can see the blue line, that is the Dow Jones line, was much above the BSE 30. And last May, I think we were in the midst of the second wave, which was, very, very fatal to the health of many people in India. And then, we covered up, we crossed Dow Jones, and we were better than Dow Jones. And now we come to a meeting point. So 10.6% of Dow Jones and Indian market 13% up from Jan 21 to Jan 22. So this is every year figure. What I want to say that Indian markets are perfectly aligned with the global market. And at times, Indian sectors don't play a very important role, like the Indian macroeconomics. Sometimes, inflation of India is very high, okay, or economic growth. Though, India is a potential to grow more than 10%, but we are growing at 8 to 9% or 7% or so. But then also Indian markets are growing, year after year. You can see the valuation. Last year, the Sensex was up by 25%. So Indian market is growing, prices are going up, not only because of the Indian condition, but because of the global condition. And in case, if there is some problem with the global condition, even if Indian conditions are good, we will see a reasonable fall in the Indian market. So we have to understand that we are perfectly aligned with the global market. Now, this slide shows just simple comparison. 2020, Indian market was up by 14%, and 2021, Indian market was up by 24%. Now, the budget, I'll speak about only one or two things about the budget 2022. And this is, we are all aware of the budgetary provisions, much about read newspapers and all. So here, very important factor is the increase in capital expenditure. So increase in capital expenditure by 35%. That's a huge. So from 4.54 lakh to 7.5 lakh crore. Now, there is a huge, unique importance of capital expenditure. When capital expenditure increases, short it is known as the capex. There is an opportunity for employment. And when there is increase in capital expenditure, more manufacturing activity takes place. So that increases production, employment, income of people increases the demand of people, and demand for goods. And then that gives fillip to the manufacturing activity. So we enter into a vicious circle of high economic growth. So capex is the starting point, and this is a very right step taken. I mean, it's a fantastic step taken by the government to increase the capital expenditure. Of course, we hope and we believe that the targets should be met. So when you go into a higher capital expenditure, the will of economic growth becomes larger, and we enter into higher economic growth with the vicious circle of, as I explained. So capital expenditure by the government, if it is followed by increase in capital expenditure by the corporate, that can take us to the whatever dream we have of double-digit growth and whatever trillion economy we are planning for. Well, I'll skip all the 2022. These are the simple provisions which we are aware of. Now, when the budget was announced, we have seen that there were no negatives in the budget. All was good, and the capital expenditure increase and increase of infra projects. They have welcome provision that will help the capital markets in a big way. What happened on the budget day? I have analyzed the sector-wise movement on the budget day. Now you can see in the center it's BSE 30, which is in the red bar, BSE 30. The BSE 30 shows 1% rise on the budget day. On the left-hand side, all the bars, they are the underperformance. And on the right-hand side, all the bars, they are the outperformance. So you can see BSE 30 underperformance, was only in auto sector, which was down by 1%, and oil and gas, which was down by 1%. So again, you see last year also, auto sector did perform. So on the budget day also, auto sector did perform. On the right-hand side, we see metals. Metals, FMCG was at par, and health, realty, they outperformed a bit by the Sensex. But overall, I would say, there was no such direct provision on a particular sector, which would, give us a sharp increase in a particular sector, because the budget was giving a general provision, and I don't think, any particular sector was benefited hugely by any specific provision in the budget. So what you see is a normal market movement. Top performance on the budget day, highest was Tata Steel 7.5%, followed by Sun Pharma 6.9%, Industrial Bank 5.8%. Then we have Shree Cement 5%, Hindalco 4.5%. So the metal stock was on fire. Larsen 4.3%, Ultratech 4.2%, JSW 4%. So you can see major was steel and cement. Huge outlay for infra projects, increasing capital expenditure. When you are into expansion of capital expenditure, what is required? When you want to set up a manufacturing plant, what is required? Main raw material is the steel and cement, and engineering companies like Larsen and Tozo. So they are the beneficiaries on the budget day. Now to sum up all the positives of the budget, huge 35% increase in outlay of capital expenditure. India continues to be on its path of revival. We have come out of the COVID. Even RBI has declared that India has come out of the COVID-induced slowdown. And the third wave, we all know, was having more and more people got infected, but the illness was not very serious. And hopefully, the history of pandemic, they have only 3 years. So according to historical study, I think we would not see any further wave coming in. That should be the end of pandemic. Now India continues to be an attractive destination for foreign investment. We have the lowest corporate tax structure and huge government spending. Government, drawing red carpet for foreign investors, welcoming foreign investors. So I think India is a preferred destination for investment. And that's a very positive for the Indian economy and for the capital market. What are the challenges? We are seeing positives. What are the challenges? The biggest challenge in this financial, which I see, is the high inflation. As I explained, inflation is very high. Your consumer price index is at 5.6%, which is just near the tolerance limit of 6%. And then the WPI is as high as 14%. US inflation highest in the last 30 years. So inflation has become a global phenomena, and this is going to be a spoiler. This inflation, we have to be very watchful about the inflation. Manufacturing activity not picking up as it should be. You have seen the IIP data; it is lying stagnant. There are bottlenecks in supply chain because of the COVID. Still, that problems are not yet solved. Huge fiscal burden on the government on account of COVID and the economic conditions created out of COVID. And high fiscal deficit. They are the challenges with the Indian economy going forward. Now, what should be the investor strategy in the time to come? In now next year onwards, what I feel, that's my humble opinion. In the last year, we have seen Sensex going at 25%. At the same time, you can see I've shown you one slide where it shows that small cap was up by 72%. So lock, stock and barrel, each and every stock has gone up substantially. And the investors have made huge profits in the last 1.5 years. If you go back in the year Feb 2019, when the COVID outbreak was declared, the market had a fall and it went down to 7,500 in just 1 month, from 12,000 to 7,500. I'm talking about Nifty. So Nifty was around 12,000 in February 2019. It went down to 7,500 in the month of March 2019. And from 2019, that is from 7,500, market started to rise. So we have seen spectacular gains in every sector. And IT sector was the highest beneficiary. We have seen profits in metal industry, IT sector, and power sector. Health sector last year, this year it was at par. We have seen huge gains in health sector in the last year. So overall, in the last 1.5 years, the market has given tremendous profits to investors. But what I feel, go to further now, life is not going to be as easy in the year to come. And we have, as an investor class, we have to be very careful in making investments. In the last year, it was very easy. You put money in the market, you buy stocks. Whether I have knowledge or I don't have knowledge, whether studied, not studied, but the market force was so powerful that the profits were available after investment. But I feel the same may not happen in time to come. Investors will have to be very choosy and they'll have to be very careful and time the market. If you make aggressive buying at a high price, there is a possibility of you getting hit or you buy it at a very high price. So the strategy should be to buy on dips and don't go for aggressive buying and be very selective in the stocks what you select. Don't go for small cap stocks. Go for company large cap stock and mid cap stock which is having sufficient good volume and good market price and good market capitalization. So you have to go for companies which are known and don't go for unknown companies and not buy cheap. And you have to be very careful this year. It's not going to be very easy this year. So in the medium term, you can see the correction will keep on coming. You have seen last day, today is Thursday, Wednesday, the market was down by 200 points. So you will see this type of correction. Even in the month of January, in the month of December, we have seen market falling in the month of December from 18,400. Nifty was 18,400 in the month of January, around 10th of January. So I'll show you this slide. It came down by 2,000 points. So you will see this type of big corrections in the market. Time to go. The markets are going to be volatile. Markets are going to be choppy. Time to come. It's not going to be that easy. So I want to say the valuations are not cheap. You be very careful in investing. But the long-term bull market is still intact. So there is no evidence of change in the long-term market. So there would be corrections, deep corrections, and you have to be cautious. Selective purchases may be made when there is a fall in the market. So I would advise, please do not go for aggressive buying at higher prices and be very choosy in selecting your stock. So continuing with my strategy, I would say that the ghost of high inflation will haunt the market and will keep on giving jobs. The Fed will come out with a statement that, okay, we'll increase the rate of interest faster than what we expect. And Dow Jones collapses by 2% overnight. And the Indian markets also opens by 200 points, 300 points lower. And there's pressure on the Indian market. So the Fed activity will be watched very carefully throughout the world. What is Fed doing? How they have already started to reduce their balance sheet. They have started to reduce the amount of the helicopter money or the note printing or the bond buying program. So they're trying to squeeze out liquidity from the market. So we have seen in the last so many years, there was liquidity driven market. Especially, this is known as the helicopter money. The US has been printing money since last 15 years without any gold reserve, direct printing of money, direct printing of dollars. And the whole world has, gone up, survived because of all this note printing. And there are many, experts making a statement that the central banks all over the world, they have not made any effort to bring about any structural changes in the problem. They have not tried to solve the problem. So if there is any problem, or say you can say 2007 or 8, there was a Lehman Brothers fall and all this we are aware of. And how the problem was solved by note printing. Now, even in COVID, how the problem was solved by note printing. So there is no, we are taking paracetamol or we are taking steroids, but structural problems are not yet solved. So the central banks all over the world, they are resorting to the same practice of note printing, whether it is US, Europe, Japan, India. I don't know about India because the figures are not very clear. So all over the world, note printing is taking place, and there is a caution, how far this can go on. So I repeat, inflation in US is 30 years high, inflation in India also very high, high fiscal deficit. So inflation is a factor which investors should be watching very closely for making the investment decisions. Friends, I've been always saying that the best method for investment will be SIP, that is the systematic investment plan. Now, what is that systematic plan? We are all aware that mutual funds, they have their scheme that every month you invest X amount. For example, I want to invest 10,000 a month. I go to a mutual fund. Every month I invest 10,000 rupees. And suppose I can have my own SIP also. If I don't want to go to mutual fund, if I want to buy the shares in my own account, then I will select say 20 scrips. And if I have budget of 20,000 rupees per month, I will invest 1,000 rupees in every scrip. So I invest 20,000 in 20 scrips every month, whether the market is up or market is down. So I think this form of investment should be continued. This is the best form of investment, and this has yielded maximum profits to the investors. At the same time, I would like to say that enjoy the profits. The profits are yours. When in the stock market, there's tremendous profit at the moment. So take out some money out of the market, then enjoy the profits. Otherwise, sometimes it becomes a roller coaster drive where you are there is enthusiasm and there is a so much of delightful moments in our some part of career. They see huge money and profits in the portfolio investment. But some factors coming, unfortunately, market may go down and the profit gets wiped out and it becomes only a dream. अरे मैंने बेचा होता तो इतना पैसा मिलता था. तो थोड़ा बेचना चाहिए. And you take money out of the equity market and put somewhere else. So suppose you are selling a stock and buying some other stock is also not good. So if you're selling a stock, you're making a profit, then you take this money out and do something else with that money. I mean proper investment with that money. And in this slide, this shows the growth of Nifty, how Nifty has performed in the last 1.5 years. I was talking in the month of January 2020, Nifty was 12,000. And because of pandemic, it went to 7610. Sorry, I made the date at 19 when I was talking about this chart earlier. It is 20. So Jan 20, 12,000 to 7,600 in just 1 month. On 23rd March 2020, that was the bottom of the market. Then market started to rise. Pandemic was there. If you see March 2020, there was total lockdown in the Indian economy. I mean, the country was total lockdown. All over the world, there was lockdown. But market started to rise. And then it went up to 18,477 on 18th of October 2021. And now we are at around 16,600. So we are already down by 2,000 points from the top. You can see Reliance was the star performer. After the March 2020, Reliance on the basis of selling its shares to Facebook and to various other investors at a very high valuation, Reliance started to rise. And you can see Reliance Form, today we are at 2,700. It went up to 2,700. I cannot see this figure here on the right side because it's screen here. 2,700 was the high. And from 2,700, we see some consolidation in Reliance. In my view, the Reliance will always be a good buy because of the fantastic, managerial capacity of the owners. I mean, they're great entertainers, great visionary, and Reliance will come up with new ideas, new projects on the hydrogen energy project and the green project, and such projects will keep on coming. So Reliance will always be a good buy. And if you want to have an SIP, you should be having SIP in Reliance. Keep on buying Reliance in every month. Now you can see TCS. TCS is a star performer, and it continues to grow from this level. I think that 200% rise in last 1 and 2 years. So it's a fantastic company, and technology will keep driving. The technology will keep on driving and thriving. Technology is going to last for more years. It will not the end. Every year you have more technology coming to your hand. So technology stocks, especially TCS, will continue to perform. State Bank of India, especially, is a star performer. And in the last 2 or 2 months, I have seen many stocks fallen by say 10%, 5%, or so on. But State Bank of India is the only stock which has gone up beyond the October high. So October high of Nifty was 18,477. Now compared to that, many stocks are below that, below that level. But this stock, SBI, is the only stock which is above that level. I mean, it has outperformed the last 2 or 3 months. Then going into various sectors which are good for studies, I see tech sector, especially TCS, Onward Technologies, and Tata Elxsi, they are showing very promising growth. In the healthcare sector, various stocks like, I've seen, but, I like to study Cipla and Sun Pharma. They are outperforming. They are outperforming in this situation. We have seen the healthcare industry not performing, but Cipla and Sun Pharma, they are outperforming the healthcare sector. In the auto sector, Tata Motors will continue to perform. Tata Motors is showing tremendous strength, and I think they are very well set for the electrical vehicle technology coming in, and they are ready with electrical vehicle technology. Escorts, again, it's not only in automobile sector, it's also it is manufacturing equipment for infra projects. So in the auto sector, I like Tata Motors and Escorts. Well, the hotel industry is now picking up. The EIH hotel, the Indian hotels. As I think, the pandemic is getting over, and during the pandemic, the hotel industry was the worst sufferer. But I think they are coming out of all the bad period, dark cloud cover from the tunnel. And I see EIH and the East India Hotel and the Indian hotels performing in time to come. In the banking sector, ICICI Bank, SBI Bank, IDFC, Axis Bank, they are looking much better than the other private banks like HDFC, Kotak Bank. They are very stagnant. So I think, putting money into this stock would yield compared to higher returns. Then steel and cement, because of high projects, high infra, Ultratech Cement, Larsen, Hindalco. Hindalco is a fantastic stock. So this can give good results. Now you can see the power sector, the whole sector analysis. So power sector, a promising stock, Adani Transmission, Thermex, Power Grid, HBL Power, Tata Power, Torrent Power. So invest Tata Power. The power sector has been outperformer in the last various sectors, and these stocks need to be carefully studied for possible profitable investment. The textile stock, the whole pack, everything in textile is going up. Whether you are into Aditya Birla, they are fashion. Arvind, they are into branded products. Then there are many other companies like, are listed here. They are manufacturing yarn. They are manufacturing thread. And there are companies which are manufacturing chemicals for textiles. There are companies which are manufacturing machinery like the Lakshmi machines, which are machine manufacturing for textile industry. The whole pack is bullish. So this is in the whole setup. I feel power sector and textile sector need to be carefully studied for profitable investment. And these stocks are fantastic stock like Century Inca, Century Textiles, various other stocks. The Kajaria, these stocks, their consumption stocks like Kajaria Ceramic continuously growing. Sumani Ceramic, they're continuously growing. They're consumption stocks. And the fine thing is that there is Indian marble, the Makrana marble of Rajasthan is no more available now. So if you want to buy anything for your house, for tiles, you have no choice. Either you buy Italian marble or you go for Kajaria Ceramic or Sumani Ceramic. So there is a huge demand for this type, huge demand. And this stock has been rising year after year. So, this is a very good investment. And auto ancillaries, Jamna Auto, Minda Corporation, they are manufacturing suspension products for the auto industry. So wherever it is, whether it's electrical vehicle or traditional vehicle, this company will keep on selling their products. Realty sector has been outperforming. So power sector, textile sector, and realty sector. I think these three sectors should be carefully understood and studied. DLF, Obera is a fantastic stock of all the packs. So Obera Realty, DLF, and Sunteck Realty. Infra again, always we are talking about infra. I've identified Man Infra and Ramki Infra. There are many other stocks, but of all the stocks, I like Man Infra and Ramki Infra. Other stocks like Navin Floor, they are the monopoly products. And fertilizer stock, GSFC, Gati. Friends, all the the standard disclaimer. Discussion of stock was only academic and only for analysis. I don't give any tips. And please verify with any certified advisor before taking any decision. You can call me also, or you can appoint me as a financial advisor. Of course, not for fees. I would help to be, guide all my participants. Anyway, India will continue to be an amazing growth story, and we are fortunate to be in India. And I am very bullish on India and on Indian capital markets. And friends, thank you so much for tolerating me for the last 45 minutes. And once again, sorry for the technological goof up in the beginning. Thank you, Mala Chamber. Thank you, GSC, for giving me this opportunity year after year. I think this is my 15th year of association with on this budget meeting. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Manish bhai. I am sure all the participants of this meeting have benefited immensely from getting views of Manish bhai, not only at macroeconomic level, but at sectoral level also. And all the analysis which is presented by him would immensely help each of us to plan our portfolio as well as advise our clients about the investment portfolio in case one of this is our area of practice. Before we move to our next session, I would request Secretary of the Chamber, Jitendra Bhai Fulia, to propose a vote of thanks to Shri Manish bhai.
Thank you, Chairman, for giving me. Am I audible? Thank you, Chairman, for giving me opportunity for vote of thanks of respected Shri Manish Bhai Chokshi. Thank you, Manish sir, for your valued guidance, information, and statistics. In the current scenario, when rate of interest is low and inflation is high, so to match the inflation, one need to invest in stock market. For that, one need to study and requires guidance. It also requires information and knowledge in fundamental and technical aspects, and many other information and sectors also. Manish sir, in the past, from last many years, we are getting valuable information and knowledge from you in all the aspects. I'm sure after listening to you, all the participants will get valuable information which will excite them towards stock market. Now I request Chairman sir to continue. Thanks.
Thank you, Jitendra bhai. Friends, our next session is on the provisions relating to the direct taxes, analysis of the provisions relating to direct taxes. And for analyzing this, we have a legal luminary, senior advocate, Shri Saurabh Soparkarji from Ahmedabad with us. Over these years, we had been arranging a physical meeting, and in those physical meetings, most probably the speakers who were residing in Mumbai only could join us for delivering speeches. This pandemic has opened up an opportunity to all the tax professionals and listeners to get the views, not from all over country, but all over the globe. So we are immensely benefited today with the presence of senior advocate Saurabh Soparkarji, and I welcome him to this session and the meeting. And before we proceed, I would request our treasurer, CA Khyati Vasani, to introduce Saurabh sir to all of us.
A very lovely good evening to all of you. Thank you, Yatin sir. As he rightly said, Saurabh Soparkar sir is an alumnary. Saurabh Soparkar sir has a bachelor's in commerce. He is an LLB, a chartered accountant. He had secured a 3rd rank in India and 1st in Gujarat at inter level of CA. He had also secured 3rd rank in India and 1st in Gujarat for the paper of company law in CA final. Honorable Saurabh Soparkar sir has been a prominent practicing advocate with the Gujarat High Court, the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal, and the National Company Law Tribunal, Ahmedabad, since 1981. He has expertise in tax laws, commercial law, including intellectual property rights, maritime disputes, and electrical law disputes. He has been giving several webinars and paper presentations at various tax bar associations. He has been given the designation of a senior advocate by the Gujarat High Court. He had been a standing counsel for the Income Tax Department for 3 years from the year 1986 to 1989 for the state of Gujarat. He has also been a visiting faculty at the prestigious IIM Ahmedabad on the subject of corporate tax planning and legal aspects of business for over 22 years up to 2009. He is a member of Board of Governors for the CEPT University, Ahmedabad University, and Ahmedabad Education Society. He has been the president of Income Tax Appellate Tribunal Bar Association, Ahmedabad, and also a vice president of the National Company Law Tribunal Practitioners Association, Ahmedabad. So thank you so much for accepting our invitation and gracing us and honoring us. We are we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. President and friends, I joined, and at the relevant time, the speech of ministry was going on. And I started wondering that I am in the wrong profession. Probably money lies on the stock market, and maybe I should think of shifting. But then I realized I know nothing about stock market. So whatever I have probably would be lost very soon. So let me continue to cater to my bank FDs. But it was an interesting analysis. Let me now go to the issue of Finance Bill 2022. The speech of the Honorable Finance Minister was quite brief, but the Finance Bill contains many clauses which would require discussion. Before I really take up some of the issues, because it would be impossible to discuss every issue, I'll take up only some of the issues which I believe are important from the point of view of the SSC and also from the point of view of the practitioners. Let's spend a couple of minutes on the background. I believe the task of the Honorable Finance Minister was unenviable. On one hand, there is political pressure, elections of important states around the corner. Economy was significantly impacted because of Corona. Government needed significant sums of money because it has spent huge amount of expenditure, both for the purpose of treatment or hospitalization and for vaccination. Under the circumstances, whether or not to impose any new taxes was always probably a matter of some debate. I am happy to find, because now we need to be happy when taxes are not increased. The days of taxes being reduced have practically gone away. I am very happy to find that taxes have not increased. The only thing that has happened is surcharge on long-term capital gain, which was being imposed at as high as 37%, has come down to a flat rate of 15%. Barring that, there have been no changes in the rates of taxes. Let me also touch upon one amendment which is not there. I had anticipated, and many had anticipated, that the mess-up created by virtue of notices issued under the old Act, old Section 147, 148, after 1st April 21 up to 30th of June 21, would be covered by retrospective clarificatory amendment. Delhi High Court, Allahabad High Court, Rajasthan High Court, they all have struck down all these thousands of notices. Many other high courts are in the process of doing that. My personal view is these notices are indefensible. They would be struck down. the government is likely to lose thousands and thousands of crores of rupees. I had believed that they would bring in retrospective amendment, and I had reasons to so believe. Fortunately for all those SSCs, there has been no retrospective amendment, and therefore, now unless Supreme Court reverses the Allahabad High Court judgment, I would believe the SSCs are safe. With this, let me now touch upon some of the major amendments. One, which is significantly highlighted in every media, and that is taxation of virtual digital asset. Cryptocurrency and such other virtual currencies, units, or forms or media which convey or which have a value had been attracting attention since quite some time. Now, the government was in a fix whether to regularize, whether to declare them as illegal. I think they are still a little confused on the issue. But then they realized that till they reach a final conclusion about giving legal form to this mode of investment, trading, or income, there is no reason for them to wait in the matter of taxation, because it is well settled that even illegal income can be taxed. And therefore, by making provision to tax these transactions, it is not as if the government is legalizing transactions if they are not legal. With this, now, Section 2, Clause 47A is sought to be introduced, defining virtual digital asset. It's a fairly complex definition. I'm not going there. The definition of movable property under Section 56 to 10 read with 56 to 7 is being amended. So if somebody gifts or sells virtual asset at a price below the market price, the recipient would be liable to pay tax. If this asset is sold, then under Section 115 BBH, there will be a flat rate of tax at 30%, and barring expenditure incurred for acquiring the asset, the SSC will get no deduction whatsoever of any expenditure. More importantly, this is heads I win, tail you lose situation. If there is an income, government says we'll tax you at 30% flat. If there is loss, it's a dead loss. You would not be permitted to set off this loss against any other income, nor you would be permitted to carry it forward for future years. It becomes a dead loss. Interesting question of law would arise. If in a year, I have two transactions of virtual digital asset, one giving me income of rupees 20 lakh, another giving me loss of rupees 15 lakh. Do I set off loss of 15 lakh against income of 20 lakh, which is again income of virtual digital asset? Suppose I want to set off, do I need to show they are part of the same transaction? Because if they are part of the same transaction, I am quite clear there may not be a problem. But if they are completely distinct transaction, whether or not I would get set off, even in relation to the same set of transaction, is also going to be a matter of debate. Further, there is an obligation to deduct tax at source on the part of the purchaser making payment to the vendor at 1%. I think 1% is being kept only for the purpose of ensuring that there is regulation, control, and reporting. But even then, at 1%, it is being reported, thousands of crores is likely to be received by the government. So this is in relation to virtual digital asset. Next, section 14A. Either we always understood the law to be, because High Courts had said so. There have been observations of the Supreme Court also, that if I do not have any exempt income in the year, then the question of invoking section 14A would not arise, and therefore there will be no disallowance. Now, amendment is being proposed to the effect that even if I have no exempt income under section 14A, section 14A will still trigger, and therefore all expenses which I have incurred for the purpose of earning income, which as a matter of fact I have not earned, whole expenditure would be disallowed. I have frankly no problem on principle. The problem is this amendment and the next amendment, which we'll discuss hereafter, is introduced with the phrase, for the removal of doubt, it is hereby clarified. So if you read section 14A on and after 1st April 2022, though it is in relation to assessment year 2023-24 and would technically apply only from 1st April 2022, in as much as it contains the language for the removal of doubt and it is clarified, we are going to have again a round of litigation in all pending matters, whether this amendment should be made applicable, treating it to be retrospective, being clarificatory in nature. Now it is well settled that even though legislature may use the expression for the removal of doubt, or it is clarified that the use of one or both these expressions would not necessarily lead to a conclusion that the provision is clarificatory and therefore would apply to all pending matters retrospectively. But this is certainly going to be a landmine for litigation. We will have problems, and therefore, even if matters are pending in relation to earlier years, the chances are a revenue might invoke amended section 14A and might try to create unnecessary complications in the matter of the appeal. The third amendment. I heard Manish Bhai saying that pharma sector is booming, but please see 3 express amendments sought to be introduced under section 37 by way of explanation. And these explanations, or this explanation which is in 3 parts, again is being introduced, quote, for the removal of doubt, and it is hereby clarified. So what I said about retrospectivity again will be relevant here. Now, what are the 3 amendments? Let me take the second one first, because it is little general. Now, the pharma sector is being accused for good, bad or indifferent reason. I am not passing any value judgment. Pharma sector is being accused of spending significant sum of money in inducing doctors and hospitals to prescribe their medicines. Questions have arisen as to whether the amount so spent would be admissible as a business expenditure or not. Revenue was contending that this expenditure is not admissible as deduction because under explanation, then explanation to section 37, an expenditure which is not legal would not be allowed. The argument of the SSS was, so far as we are concerned, we are committing no breach of any law, and we are not governed by the guidance note or guidelines issued by Medical Council of India, which in any case applies to medical doctors, and they may be concerned, we are not concerned. Issue, I would believe, is not likely to be held against the SSC, but then there are some tribunal orders which have taken a view against the SSC. Recently, Mumbai Tribunal, after noticing differences in the views, has referred the matter to special bench. Now, for the removal of doubt, on the basis of clarification, an amendment is being proposed, albeit from assessment year 23-24. The amendment is that if SSC provides any benefit perquisite to any person, whether or not in business or profession, and acceptance of such benefit or perquisite by any person is in violation of any law, rule, regulation, or guideline, then guideline applicable to whom? Not the SSC payer, but the guideline applicable to the recipient. Then, in the hands of SSC, this expenditure would not be allowed. So now, whenever I make payment, I must ensure that not only it is not contrary to law so far as I am concerned, it's not also not contrary to law in the hands of the recipient. Now I can understand contrary to law. It says law, rule, regulation, and guideline. Now guideline can be statutory guideline, and obviously it will be binding on the recipient. It may be non-statutory guideline, we really do not know. But this is the law. The other two proposals are, I believe, a particular SSC specific. Recently, in a matter at tribunal, an SSC pharma company claimed expenditure running into couple of thousand crore payable by it on the ground that it had allegedly committed breach of a foreign law and or it had compounded probable prosecution under the foreign law. The argument of the SSC was that the law under section 37 only includes Indian law. Foreign law is not law for the purpose of section 37. We have a decision of Mumbai Tribunal on that. Following that, Ahmedabad Tribunal recently took a view in a matter argued by me that if an SSC has made payment in a foreign country for the purpose of a settling dispute, which under the foreign law may be allegedly an offense, or has compounded money by paying money in a foreign currency, which allegedly in the foreign law may be an offense, it's allowable expenditure. Now, the amendment that is proposed is law would mean not only law in India, but also foreign law. And therefore, if there is a payment for the purpose of settling any dispute anywhere in the world, or for compounding any alleged offense anywhere in the world, the same would not be allowed as an expenditure under section 37. This may also have some far-reaching effect. The next amendment, which I had believed would come, is in relation to the expenditure in the form of education cess and surcharge. Whether that is, they are included within the meaning of tax under section 40. If they are tax, they would not be allowed. Rajasthan High Court in the case of Chambal Fertilizer and Bombay High Court in the case of Sesa Goa took the view that the word tax would not include education cess and surcharge. On the basis of these judgments, in a large number of cases, different benches of the tribunal granted huge benefit to the SSE, and matters are pending at one or another level in the High Court. Law is now proposed to be retrospectively amended, effect from 1st April 2005, clarifying again for the removal of doubt, but because it is retrospective, even that expression need not have been used. It is expressly stated that tax would include educational surcharge, and therefore one has to now consider, and I would advise one should give up such claims if they are pending at one or another level. One, in relation to corona related expenditure or income benefit. Section 56(10) taxes a person in relation to any money received from any source, barring a few exceptions. During corona pandemic, lot of people received lot of help and well-deserved help, both from the government or private agencies, charitable trusts, distant relative, whatever. From a retrospective date, assessment at 2021, 2 years back, 2 additional exemptions are being introduced under Section 56. First, in those cases where the person infected ultimately has not died. So where a person has received from another person any sum of money for expenditure actually incurred by him for medical treatment, either of his own or of his family member, then subject to such conditions as may be prescribed, the amounts so received would not suffer tax. Now, as all of us know, as prescribed would mean they would be prescribed by the rules. So unless rules are available, I would not know what is the extent of exemption. But then there is an exemption. In the event of, however, death, if the members of the family have received any sum of money, A, from employer, or B, from any other person, then if it is from employer, without there being any limit, if it is from a third party, up to rupees 10 lakh, the amount so received would be exempt. But government always believes, maybe partly rightly also, government always believes that people will create unnecessary claims of such exemption. So government will always put ifs and buts. So then there are 2 provisos. One, provided that payment is made within 12 months from the date of death. Now, how would the family control this 12 months period? I do not know. And second, subject to such conditions as may be prescribed. So again, we are in the realm of uncertainty about the conditions. The next amendment, which is a very major amendment, which will impact everyone, is under Section 68. Traditionally, according to Supreme Court and series of judgments of High Court, if I have received a sum of money which is recorded in my books of account, under Section 68, I must explain the source, genuineness, capacity, and the source of my money. And we must acknowledge large number of Calcutta companies which were created to give the color of genuine share capital. And therefore, we had in 2013 an amendment whereby any share capital received by a company from a resident must also satisfy an additional test, namely, the company will also have to prove the source of the source. Now we have one more proviso being added as the first proviso, and that says that where the SSC receives a sum of money consisting of loan or borrowing or any amount by whatever name called, unless SSC offers an explanation along with the similar explanation being offered by the creditor about the nature and source of such sum, and unless such explanation is found to be acceptable to the assessing officer, addition would be made in the hands of the SSC. So now, not only I need to prove source, I need to prove source of the source. Not only that, please mark, unlike share capital, where it applies only to residents, there is no such exclusion in relation to non-residents in relation to this transaction. So from whichever source you receive, you will have to prove source of a source. If I take this argument to illogical absurdity, if I borrow rupees 1 crore from the bank, some, I won't use the word funny assessing officer, but some vindictive assessing officer can also ask me, show to me the source of bank. And unless you show to me the source of bank, I will not give you the deduction. And I would not be surprised if the monies are received from private finance companies or small cooperative banks. SSC may still have to face this kind of music. So now section 68 creates a significant additional burden. By the time inquiry might come, it is likely SSC may have returned the money. It is likely SSC may have no connection, control, or contact with the creditor. That's his problem. Law says you shall have to prove, failing which you will have to suffer addition. And you are aware this addition is subject to tax at 60% plus 15%, etc. at 78% effectively. Now we have a new section, which is again a very, very problematic section in case of search. Now the provision is we are getting a new section 79A, which curtails right of set off of business loss and depreciation in certain situations. What does it provide? It says, notwithstanding anything contained under any other provision of the Act, where pursuant to search under section 132, requisition under section 132A, or survey under section 133A, other than TDS survey under section 133A 2A, barring TDS survey. So in this case is search, requisition, and survey. If SSC is found to be having undisclosed income, and if SSC is called upon to pay tax on such undisclosed income, then no set-off against such undisclosed income of any loss brought forward or otherwise, or unabsorbed depreciation would be allowed. So I have undisclosed income of rupees 10 crore. I have carry forward loss of 4 crore, forget about it. I have otherwise on my books loss of rupees 5 crore, forget about it. I have carry forward unabsorbed depreciation of rupees 2 crore, forget about it. The only thing that you can do, and I don't know why that is left out, current year's depreciation. That is not excluded from being used for set-off. Question will arise, but what is undisclosed income? Explanation is given under section 79A, where undisclosed income would be income which is money bullion, jewelry, valuable article or thing, or entry in the books of account, documents or transactions found during the search, which has not been recorded before the date of search in the books of account maintained in the normal course of business. In other words, whatever is your undisclosed income, which we normally consider for the purpose of section 132 or 158 BC or 153 A or C, that is the first part of undisclosed income. The second part of undisclosed income is any income represented by any entry, books of account or documents of the previous year found to be false and which would not have been proved but for the search or survey. So there has to be a false entry in the books of account found at the time of search. Now, whether entry is false or not, whether it is found on account of search or not, these are all matters of debate. Subject to that, incomes were added would be regarded as the income which will be hit by section 79A as undisclosed income, and they would be immunized from any set-off of losses, current or past, or unabsorbed depreciation. This is going to be hard hit in case of all those SSs who will suffer significant sum of addition on account of search or survey. The next proposal is people had been resorting to dividend sleeping, and that's why the law was amended. Then people started resorting to the bonus stripping in case of units, that was stopped. But still bonus stripping was open. I buy share on the annual of bonus being declared, get bonus, sell away old share at a high cost. Later on, after holding the bonus shares for some time, offload them in the market, may not pay tax. Now, that is not going to be allowed. The principle of bonus stripping would be made applicable to every security, which would include share. Which would mean if I acquired share 3 months prior to the record date, and if I sell away the shares within 9 months of the record date, the loss that I suffer would be set off against the income that I would earn and would not be otherwise allowed to me. We have now a new concept of updated return of income. There was a time whereby you could revise your return of income to 1 year. Then it became 3 months. Then it has to be within the year itself. I do not know whether the government is being charitable or otherwise. Probably not. The proposal is the SSs would be now permitted to file an updated return. And if you declare income under updated return, pay taxes and interest and additional tax, to which I'll come to, you will not have to suffer any penalty because you have already declared on your own. Therefore, let's find out what is an updated return of income. 1, anyone can file updated return of income, whether he had originally filed a return of income, in which even it could be technically a revised return, or whether he has not filed return of income, in which even it will be a first return. 2, this has to be filed maximum within a period of 24 months from the end of the assessment year. So for AY 22-23, I can file it by 31st of March 2025 and not beyond that. In 3 situations, I cannot file updated return. 1, I cannot file updated return to claim a loss. I have not filed return of loss at all. I now realize I have missed the bus. I can't file updated return as a return of loss. 2, I cannot file updated return so as to reduce my income returned under section 131(1), 139(1), 139.4 or 139.5. So if I filed return of income declaring income of rupees 30 lakh, I can't now file updated return of income of 25 lakh. It has to be 30 plus. What is plus is your call. And third, it cannot result into refund of any income tax pursuant to the return file under 139.1, 4 or 5. I was wondering, if I do not reduce my income, how does the third situation at all apply? It might apply this wise. I filed return of income of rupees 30 lakh but failed to claim TDS set off. Or my income is not 30 lakh but 32 lakh. I have not shown income of 2 lakh, but on that 2 lakh of rupees, TDS is deducted so much that ultimately tax payable on rupees 30 lakh, 2 lakh after TDS is less than tax payable on rupees 30 lakh without TDS. Even in this situation, because permitting me to file updated return would result into refund, this is not permissible. 4 SSCs are not eligible to file these returns. Who are the 4 SSCs? 1, where SSC has suffered search or requisition under 132 or 132A. Second, where he has suffered survey under section 133A other than TDS survey. This ineligibility continues for the year of search survey and 2 more years. Third and fourth are little interesting, where there is a search at a premises of a third party, and the third situation says money, bullion, jewelry, valuable article or thing of the SS is found to be present there, and notice is issued to the SS to that effect. I wonder which notice. I will, unless they are referring to notice under section 148. Otherwise, there is no provision in law whereby I would be told that your rupees 50 lakh are found at the premises of a third party. Similarly, the fourth clause says you are not permitted to file updated return if at the premises of third party in a search or survey, any entry or books of account or document in relation to are found, provided you had notice to that. There are certain conditions. You can't file revised updated return. This is one time. Then this is again little complicated. You cannot file an updated return where proceedings for assessment or reassessment are pending or completed. Now, it's confusing because I can understand if it is a first updated return, there was no original return. But if I had filed original return, then there are only 2 possibilities. Either it is pending or it is disposed of. You are saying at the top that you have a right to file updated return even though you have originally filed return. And then you are saying, but if the proceedings are pending or completed, you are not eligible to file. The only way I can reconcile is by taking a view that my return, though I have filed, is processed under section 143(1). So technically it is not pending. And at the same time, 143(2) notice is not issued. So it is not pending. But because there is no 143(3), it is not disposed of also. Otherwise, this provision is in conflict with the earlier provision. An SSC in relation to whom there is information under SAFEMA, Benami Act, PMLA, Black Money Act, and the same is communicated to SSC, you can't go for the updated return. Similarly, if there is information received in relation to you under section 90 or 98, you are ineligible. If prosecution is launched, again you are ineligible. The additional tax that you have to pay is if you file updated return within 12 months from the end of the assessment year, 25%. But if you file it within 24 months, after 12 months to 24 months, it is 50%. But please mark, this 25% and 50% is not in relation to incremental tax only. It is in relation to incremental tax plus interest. So if my tax liability is 20 lakh, interest liability is 4 lakh, 24 lakh. If it is in 12 months, I have to pay additional 6 lakh. If it is in 24 months, I have to pay additional rupees 12 lakh. And in order to enable you to compute what is your interest liability, section 234A and B are also being amended in a very complex manner so that you will be able to locate what is your interest liability. Assessment of such return of updated return will be made within 9 months from the end of the year, financial year, in which such return of income is filed. There are some amendments in the faceless assessment scheme. In fact, the whole section is rewritten. I'll only refer to two. One, now if an SSE asks for personal hearing, it is mandatory for the revenue to grant the benefit. And second, subsection 9 of section 144B provided that if there was an assessment frame in violation of section 144B, it was void. This created a lot of complications, and there was a possibility that large number of assessments will be nullified on account of this. So this subsection is being omitted retrospectively from last year. So any assessment framed in violation of section 144B would also not be invalid. There are proposals of amendment of section 148. They are significantly procedural in nature. For want of time, I am not going there except to deal with only one or two. One, last year when section 148 was introduced, they said we'll reopen only if any information is flagged according to the strategy of government, or there is a report of C&AG not agreeing to the assessment. The word flag is dropped. Will not spend time there. I had said somewhere in my budget speeches that report from C&AG will come only in rare cases and to only government corporations. Having realized that, now that clause is being substituted by 4 situations. One, any audit objection, which would mean including revenue audit. Second, information received under section 90 and 90A. Third, information is received by the assessing officer under section 135A system, meaning thereby faceless collection of information system, intra-department information sharing system. And fourth, any information which requires action in consequence of the order of court or tribunal. The fourth clause is innocuous, but I would take a view. It will have far-reaching effect. Today, the law is that on account of amalgamation, if an order is passed in the hands of transferor company's name, they become invalid, because by the time assessment of the amalgamation is noted, everybody has run out of time. There is a corresponding provision later that amalgamated company will have to inform the officer. But apart from that, because amalgamation order is an order of the court, probably revenue will be entitled to reopen assessment on the ground that this is the information which the court has now given. There was a controversy as to whether that extended period of 10 years would be available only in case of asset physically found, or even in cases where asset is not found physically. My view was, and I had stated so from public platforms, that it covers only asset and expenditure would not be covered. I hope my voice has not gone to Delhi. Fact of the matter is, now law is being amended. In 3 situations now, case can be reopened where the possible under assessment is in excess of 50 lakh. One, when assets are found. 2. Expenditure in respect of a transaction or in relation to an event or occasion or based on entries in the books of account. It also clarifies that if the acquisition of asset, expenditure, event or occasion has spread over for more than 1 year, then the case will be reopened for the respective year. So let us say there is a marriage in the family, rupees 70 lakh was spent, which is not disclosed in the books of account, 30 lakh in year 1, 40 lakh in year 2. Because the total amount exceeds 50 lakh, the case for both the years will be reopened. It will be interesting question of law, and I believe it will have to be answered in favor of SSC. If there are two independent marriages, marriage of son in year 1, 30 lakh, marriage of daughter in year 2, 40 lakh, then being independent marriages, individual limit of 50 lakh should be applied and not the collective limit. But that again, as I said, is a matter which could be a matter of some debate. Let me now go to a couple of important provisions and I'll close. 1. Section 194R is being inserted. Now, somebody might say it's a TDS provision. Why is it that I'm discussing? The provision says that if a person responsible for providing any benefit or perquisite, whether convertible into money or not, on exercise of business or exercise of profession by the recipient, TDS at 10% is mandatory. Again, an issue probably directly coming from the pharma sector. Let us say a pharma company chooses to take all doctors on holiday tour, let's say to Russia, and an amount of rupees 3 lakh per doctor is spent. Under section 194R, this 3 lakh of rupees will have to suffer TDS. But then company is not recovering any money from the doctor. Law says you have to recover the money. And if you do not want to recover, then you will have to gross up. This would mean two things. One, the sum of money will be taxable in the hand of doctor. And two, because it has been subjected to TDS, it will be subject matter which will be reported on annual information system, which probably will make everyone exposed to these kinds of transactions, and it will not be possible for you to avoid payment of taxes. So now, if you are giving benefit of a significant sum of money, so long as it is less than rupees 20,000, you don't have to worry. So Diwali gifts, Christmas gifts, don't worry. But otherwise, if it's a significant sum of money, you will have to deduct taxes. Finally, charitable trusts. Probably you will require one full session, not mine, I'm not suggesting. You will require one full session to discuss the proposed changes in case of a charitable trust. Large number of them are proposed. I'll be very brief. There is one set of amendment for section 1023C institutes, but they are few in number. I will not even touch them. There is another set of amendment for section 1112 or 12AB registered trusts. Now, what is proposed is every trust will have to maintain books of account and documents in a prescribed form and in a prescribed manner and at a place as may be prescribed. So it may say that it has to be at the trust office or at the residence of the trustee, whatever. Second, if during the course of assessment proceedings, assessing officer comes to a conclusion that the trust is not carrying out activity of the as per the object clause or has spent money in violation of the object clause, he will have to refer the matter to commissioner. Commissioner will independently hold an inquiry. If he comes to a view that yes, there is a breach, he shall cancel registration. Once Commissioner cancels registration, EO shall then pass the order. In other words, EO will have to wait till the Commissioner decides on his suggestion of cancellation of registration. As a result, the time spent in getting the report, not the report, the direction from the Commissioner, from the date on which a reference is made till the date the Commissioner gives the direction, will be excluded for the purpose of framing assessment. Commissioner now has the power to cancel your registration if there is a specified violation. What is specified violation? One, if you apply income other than for the object of the trust, good enough. If you have income from business, which is not incidental to your trust, again, good enough. If you spend money for private religious purpose, maybe it's good enough. A trust created under 1961 Act spends any money for any particular religious community or caste. Now, I believe all religious trusts spend money in relation to that particular caste or community. All temple trusts, all Derasar trusts, so on and so forth. I really do not know whether they want to cover those cases. Otherwise, there is going to be chaos. Or breach of any other law as is material for advancing the object of the trust. Theoretically, therefore, Commissioner may say that you want to build a hospital, but you do not have the building use permission from the municipal commissioner. There is a breach of municipal law which prohibits you from legally running a hospital. I would cancel your registration. I wonder why are they trying to implement other law through Income Tax Act. But this is one more aspect which is a little worrisome. Now you shall have to spend away, accumulated 85% will have to be spent away in the year or within the 5 years, not in the 6th year. If you are hit by section 13(8) or 39, your income will be taxed at the regular rate, but only the disputed income will be taxed. But it will be taxed, not at the regular rate, it will be treated as specified income to be taxed at the flat 30%. And finally, even if you are a big trust, maybe a company maintaining books of account on a mercantile basis, for the purpose of application of income, you will have to necessarily go by cash method of accounting. There are a few other amendments. For want of time, I'm not going there. But as I said, they are having far-reaching effect and one will have to be extra careful. With this, let me end my talk. It's a pleasure to share my thoughts with you. I'm very sorry I have some voice problem, therefore my quality of voice may not be very good, but thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure we all are benefited immensely with the threadbare analysis and the nitty-gritties of the provisions, your view and the way of your disseminating all the information, then the provisions which we would have read and understood. I'm sure all of us now would be, better off in discharging our day-to-day obligations and tax compliances. We are indeed grateful to you, and I'm sure, friends, to have a distinguished academician like Saurav sir is a benefit to all of us. I now request Advocate Jaideep Sonpal, our member, to present vote of thanks to the speaker. And sir, we will be sending you our publication to your office.
Thank you, sir.
As we've been And I request Jaideep to please propose vote of thanks.
Thank you, Yatin bhai. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, you are audible.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to thank office bearers and Malad Chamber family for giving me this opportunity for a pleasant task of presenting vote of thanks to a legendary stalwart in the business. Saurabh sir, your analysis was very much in-depth, precise and concise. Your analysis reminds me of goldsmith who polishes gold. Sir, your analysis has just polished budget provisions and took us to the legislative intention, which is very important to learn as a practicing professional. And with these few words of gratitude, I thank you on behalf of MCTC family. Thank you, sir. Over to you, Yatin bhai, for next session.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Jaideep.
Thank you.
Saurabh sir will be looking after to meet you year after year. Last year, the pandemic has given this opportunity. I'm sure we will find out some way so that next year also be a pandemic or not, but you are there with us to share your direct text wisdom with all of us.
Thank you.
We
Thank you
are
very much,
again
sir.
once again deeply thankful to you. I
Thank you.
request all of us to carry vote of thanks with loud applause. Now I welcome Advocate Bharat Raichandani ji for his session on the provisions relating to indirect taxes introduced by this budget. And before he commences his speech, I would request our Vice President, Sri Ujjwal Thakra, to formally introduce him to all of us.
Yes, thank you, Yatin bhai. I have the pleasant task of introducing the speaker for indirect tax proposals, Advocate Bharat Raichandani. We welcome you, sir. Yes, Mr. Bharat Raichandani is managing partner of UBR Legal, a full service law based firm in Mumbai having offices at Delhi and Ahmedabad and Vapi. He is a gold medalist at law. In the year 1996, he was awarded Outstanding Achievement in Academics by the President of Shiv Sena, Shri Uddhav Thackeray ji. He has also been awarded Young Achiever Under 40 Award by Legal Era Awards 2018 and Top 100 Legal Falcon Award by Lex World Talk at Dubai. He has over 18 years of experience in arguing cases before the Supreme Court, various high courts of the country, including Bombay High Court, Delhi, Nagpur, Goa, Lucknow, Madras, and many other high courts. He has successfully argued over 1,000 cases before Sestat at Mumbai, Delhi, Ahmedabad, Bangalore. He has also argued several matters before the ITAT, VAT Tribunal, NCLT, SEBI, and the Textile Committee Appellate Tribunal. He is also a profound speaker on budget and GST lectures and co-authored various articles on negative list under service tax, customs, GST. He has also addressed numerous seminars organized by major industry associations such as IMC, CII, ICAI, Chambers of Commerce, Chamber of Tax Consultants, BCAs. With this brief introduction, I would like to hand over to Mr. Bharat Raichandani. All are eagerly waiting to hear you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ujjwal. I am sure all of the participants are waiting here to listen to a scholar like Bharat Bhai. And as he says, he makes the topic every time so simple for all of us to understand with his style that I request now Advocate Bharat Bhai to take over his session. Thank you, sir.
Very good evening to all of you. And thank you for having me, all the dignitaries of the chamber. And I must add, I don't make it simple. Okay, I don't understand the law. That's the problem. It's very complex. And in our country, I can make a statement with certain certainty of arguing in the courts for so many years. The person who has made the law also will not be able to tell what he is written. So therefore, that is the reason that we have legal interpretations. Always two views are possible. Okay. Always two views are possible. It is my view or your view. Ultimately, it's the Supreme Court's view. So there is no right, there is no wrong. Okay. So the Supreme Court also says this about the Supreme Court itself in one of the celebrated judgments. We are not final because we are right. We are right because we are final. Were there an appeal against our orders, 50% will be overruled. Okay. So with this, let me just point out, okay. Of course, not unlike income tax, which Saurabh sir had explained beautifully. Okay. And to follow that, it's not possible for me. Income tax, I was told there are about 82 or 84 amendments that can happen only in our country. That can happen only in our country. 84 amendments, you can imagine, to different sections. Okay. So, bach kya gaya usme? I don't know. So, it's quite disheartening to see. Okay. I was reading Palkiwala's book on income tax. If you see the original edition, which was written by Mr. Palkiwala, after that, Dinesh Bhai has also done an extremely good job. But you see the original edition, the preface to the edition says, the Indian Income Tax Act is a national shame. It has been amended over 3,000 times in 30 years. In those days, 30 years. Today, we don't know how many amendments are there. Okay. Because you lose track of what the original section was or what the original section intended to do with so many amendments. And the amendments, I must point out, are solely and wholly with a single object in mind, is to desist from any argument being raised by any assessee or to overrule any judgment of the tribunal or the High Court or to Supreme Court, wherever any relief must have been granted to the assessee. It is not important, sir. Please note, it is not important whether the judgment is correct or not. The judgment is in favor of the assessee. We have to overrule it legislatively. That's the sole intention. Okay. And I must also point out, people may not agree with my views. Okay. Sorry, but you cannot do anything. I am the speaker. Okay. But let us be fair and practical. Let us have a fair discussion. Okay. I'll start with the presentation. I'll share my screen. Just tell me, sir, if you're able to see the screen. ये चालू कर दो.
We are able to see.
You are able to see, sir?
Yes, we are.
You can see the screen, right, sir? Okay.
Yes.
Now, before I start, sir, this is I will talk about indirect tax. Not there are many amendments, but I must tell you all the amendments in whether in the Income Tax Act, under the Finance Bill, or to GST, or to Customs, or to the Tariff Act, are only and only against the assessee, are only and only against the taxpayer. None of them are beneficial. None of them are benevolent. I'm making this statement with certain sense of responsibility and humility. Please do not go by the explanatory memorandum to the budget. Please do not go what the GST council is saying in its meeting or its minutes of meeting they are circulated. We are doing this as a trade facilitation measure, or we are doing this for ease of business. No. No. I'll show how and why. This is my opinion or my view. The most important amendment, okay, which has been added to section 16. Okay. Section 16 relates to availment of input tax credit. That's the only section in the entire act. And this section has been amended in 5 years more than 5 times. Okay. Now they have introduced a condition called clause PA, new subclause has been introduced saying that you will be eligible for input tax credit only when such credit has not been restricted in the details communicated to the recipient under section 38. Therefore, what does this section mean? This section says that you are the receiver, you are the recipient, you have received goods and services. You receive an invoice for 100 plus 18. Let us assume 18 is the rate of tax. You have paid that 118 to the supplier. The supplier has paid 18 to the government. The supplier has given you the goods and services. And therefore, legitimately, legally, you are entitled for the credit. However, still you will not be eligible for credit if at the supplier's end, his assessing officer or his tax officer feels that this credit should be restricted because of the reasons mentioned under section 38. Okay. Of the reasons mentioned under section 38, you will not be eligible for credit. Now the question that arises is this. What are 30, if you see 38 to the, if I read out conditions, they are very wide. They give extreme powers to the tax officer to question the supplier's credit and his credit also. Therefore, in the entire chain, suppose A sells to B, B sells to C, C sells to D. The tax officer of A feels that the credit of A should be restricted. It can be restricted at B's end also, C's end also, and D's end also. That's how the section is worded. Okay. The restrictions are that if the registered person does not take registration within the prescribed period, or he has defaulted in payment of tax, where such default is continued for such period as may be prescribed by the rules, or the output tax payable by whom in accordance with the statement of output supply exceeds the output tax payable by him. In other words, let us assume my tax liability I have disclosed in the GSTR 3 as 100 rupees, but I have paid only 80. They will restrict the entire 100. Or during the course of any period, he has availed the credit which is more than the credit available to him. So if he has availed extra credit, the recipient credit will be denied. Or he has defaulted in discharging his tax liability subject to section 49 or such other class of persons as may be prescribed. As may be prescribed means as may be prescribed by the rules. Now the only questions these arise, okay, especially in wake of omission of section 42, 43, 43A of the Act is, can the input tax credit be denied to me on the ground to which I am not a party? I am not privy to those grounds. Can I be asked to do the impossible when there is no mechanism in the law for me, the recipient, to challenge this restriction? According to me, I also could not find any provision which allows even the supplier to challenge this restriction. Therefore, please appreciate what these sections try to do is create a situation where credit is being denied at the whims and fancies of the tax officer without any mechanism in law for the supplier or the recipient to challenge it. And therefore, according to me, this particular section is going to give rise to a lot of disputes and litigation. All these sections, we'll see all these sections, unfortunately, are directed and designed towards denying credit. The entire object and purport with which the GST law was introduced was one and only one, that there should be seamless credit. But when I see these sections, it appears to me it seems very less credit. There is no credit absolutely. The only way the government can augment its revenue is by denying credit to you. That is why when you hear these figures of 1 lakh crore or 1,20,000 crores or 1,30,000 crores of revenue, this is all by doing this. Those are not actual or real figures. Therefore, according to me, these restrictions or these conditions which have been imposed in this statute would be a subject matter of judicial scrutiny. They will have to be tested judicially, and a court will have to take a view whether these are valid, legal in the eye of law or not. Okay. I must at this stage just point out earlier provisions under the erstwhile VAT Acts. This is nothing but a brainchild of the state authorities. Okay. And under the erstwhile VAT Acts, there were provisions which said that if the supplier doesn't pay tax to the credit of the government, the recipient will not be eligible for input tax credit. Okay. That provision was challenged under Section 48 of the Maharashtra VAT Act before the Bombay High Court. Though the Bombay High Court upheld the validity of the section and said that this is to curb the menace of fake credit or bogus credits or fraudulent credits. Okay. The Bombay High Court still held that the first action should be taken is at the supplier's end. If there is a default at the supplier's end, recovery should be made from the supplier and not from the recipient. A similar provision in Arise India was challenged before the Honorable Delhi High Court under Section 9(2). The Delhi High Court read down the section to say that your section seems to be arbitrary, it is not reasonable, for the reason that this section does not make an appropriate classification between a bona fide purchaser and a purchaser who is hand in glove with the supplier. Therefore, in other words, the Delhi High Court held that your section does not contain appropriate safeguards to protect an honest purchaser or a bona fide purchaser who, according to me, fall in the 95% class. 5%, yes, there are miscreants, sir. I'm not disputing or denying. There are black sheep everywhere in this society. Therefore, there will be people who will be indulging in these activities of fraudulent credit or fake modbad credit. But to devise a law keeping that only in mind, assuming that every credit is fake or fraudulent, and therefore I will impose these restrictions, according to me, is not correct. Therefore, these provisions need to be challenged in an appropriate proceeding before the High Court. Section 38, as I told you, Section 38 has been substituted. Now, there can be two questions about substitution. Whether this particular provision will be effective from the date when the bill becomes an act after receiving the presidential assent and therefore prospective, or the substitution will date back to the day when the section was very first introduced for the very first time. That is 1st of July 2017. Now here again, clearly two views are possible. The first view is that substitution is a tool used by the legislature where they seek to clarify right from day one, and therefore it will be retrospective in that sense. However, when we see other amendments in the very same act, in the very same finance bill, Section 50, where they have substituted with effect from 1st of July 2017. Therefore, there could be a contention that this substitution is not retrospective unless specifically mentioned so. If that be the case that this Section 38 and Section 16(2) are introduced, Section 2BA are introduced with this budget or this bill, were the recoveries initiated earlier to this on the ground that your supplier has defaulted, were they legal or valid in law or not, is another question that needs to be answered. Okay. Now, the fundamental thought that comes to my mind, okay, I have also reproduced what the GST Council suggests. GST Council says this is an enabling provision. This is an enabling provision because now we have done away with GSTR 2, GSTR 3, we have done away with Section 42, Section 43, Section 43A, which were never in force. They never implemented. They have killed the dead. They have killed the dead. But the GST Council seems to suggest that this is essentially an enabling provision to provide for your GSTR 2B. If that be so, a question that arises or that thought that comes to my mind is, can this condition of 16.2c or section 16.2ba read with 38 be complied in absence of the original scheme of two-way communication? Is it possible? Because the earlier scheme of the Act provided for a mechanism for matching of the credit. It provided for a situation where you could question the returns of the supplier. Today, that mechanism is not there. Therefore, the recipient does not have any machinery, does not have any wherewithal to question the supplier, nor he has any wherewithal or machinery to question the assessment being done at the supplier's end. In absence of it, can such a provision be implemented? According to me, the answer is no. And therefore, these particular provisions need to be tested judicially. Again, similarly, I'm to amend section 31-37 to do away with the return filing. Section 38, changing the last day of rectifying the error. Okay, this is also a beautiful amendment. So, return under section 37 cannot be filed if a return of a previous period is not filed. Okay, now they have introduced this provision under 37. Earlier, the GST portal, the computerized portal on which you do this entire filing, did not allow this. The portal itself did not allow. Unless you file a return for the earlier period, I will not allow you to file this return. This section now only provides parentage to what portal was doing till date. Therefore, the action of the portal is being justified today. But again, this question arises, this particular provision or this particular power has been introduced in the statute today. What happens for actions in the past, right from 2017 till 2022? Similarly, now section 39 also provides for the same, that a section under return 39 cannot be filed unless the return under 37 has been filed. These are all issues which the rules or the portal earlier created issues for taxpayers, and the taxpayers challenged these actions before the High Court and the Apex Court on the ground that the rules or the portal mandate something which the parent statute or the parent act does not provide for, and therefore the action is ultra vires the parent statute. But these provisions are placing the horse before the cart. Okay. Section 41 again is being amended. Please note, all these amendments are relating to credit only. Not even one amendment that I will read or I'll show is divorce input tax credit. This amendment seeks to suggest that we are doing away with provisional credit. I must tell you before this what the section earlier provided for. The section earlier provided saying that the credit that you avail is provisional credit. Provisional solely for the reason because in terms of section 42, 43, there will be a matching. And that return will be finalized and ultimately you will get a finalized credit. They are saying that since now we have done away with the concept of GSTR 1, 2 and 3 model, we don't need any provisional credit. Is it really so? According to me, the answer is no. There is more than meets the eye. They are not only doing away with the matching concept, they are not only doing away with the GSTR 1, 2 and 3 model. What they are trying to do by this amendment is, earlier you could have argued, the assessee could have argued that there cannot be any recovery of credit because the credit is provisional. Provisional, the very word provisional means it is not final. Once it is not final, it is subject to scrutiny, it is subject to test by the assessing officer. And therefore, there could not be a demand for recovery of tax, a recovery of credit. Even if the credit could have been reversed or recovered, there could not be any question of any interest and penalties. But now this section says, no, sir, nothing is provisional. Every credit that you take, though it is based on an auto-populated system, every credit that you take is based on self-assessment. And once you do self-assessment, I can question that in reassessment. The other thing that section 41 provides for is now that if your supplier has not paid the tax, you will reverse the credit. Now earlier under section 16C, the same condition was there for purpose of availing credit that your supplier should have paid tax. Then what does section 41 do new? The answer is very simple. The condition under 16C was that the supplier should have paid tax. What if I take credit where he has not paid the tax? There was no conclusion provided. If this, then this. It was only if. Now section 41 provides for then. If he doesn't pay any tax, then you have to reverse the credit. Now the question is, you have to reverse the credit with interest. Now, very important question will arise in case of an interest, whether interest is payable only on mere availment of credit or actual utilization. So in other words, if I have to reverse the credit because the supplier has not paid tax, am I still liable to pay interest? According to me, the answer will be no. Unless there is utilization of credit, there is no interest liability. The second question that would arise is, dehors, in absence of such a provision, the recovery sought to be done earlier or the denial of credit sought to be done earlier on the ground that the supplier has not paid, all become illegal because there was no statutory provision. This section also provides that once you reverse the credit, you can re-avail it after he has paid, after the supplier has paid. There a question could arise is, what is the time limit for re-availment? Is the time limit for re-availment governed by the same time limit provided under section 16.4 for taking the credit for the first time? Or the re-availment time limit will start from the date you reverse the credit? According to me, the section doesn't answer any such thing, but the time limit for re-availment of credit, according to me, in my opinion, would be the day when you reverse the credit. Now you will take back the credit. What happens if you have paid interest? What happens to that interest? You cannot take credit of interest. That money is gone. (42), 43, 43A is being omitted. As I told you, the entire scheme of the act is being sought to change. What for 10 years the GST law was in the making and ultimately they introduced in 2017 with this concept is being done away with, saying that it is not relevant now. Suddenly, how did it become irrelevant? It did not become irrelevant. It gave a tool in the hands of the assessee to check. That tool is being taken away and being given to the tax officer. Therefore, you are at the whims and fancies of the tax officer to allow you credit or disallow you credit. Because these days, at the touch of a button, he can stop your credit, he can block your credit, he can restrict your credit. The only reason, okay, of course, I am not against digitalization. The only reason why they have put it on the online portal is so that I can control it. I can stop it, I can block it whenever I want to. Section 49 is again now a restriction on the utilization of credit. This is also beautiful. Now, initially they were saying you are not eligible. Even if you are eligible, I will restrict the availment. Now, उसके बाद अगर कुछ थोड़ा बच भी गया, आपको मिल भी गया, तो I will restrict the utilization. In other words, I'll give a simple example. Suppose your tax liability is 100. You have credit of 80. They say, no, we will restrict 80 to 40 only. So you can utilize 40, pay 40 in cash, additional to 20. So pay 60 in cash. So this section puts a restriction on utilization also. So the question that arises here is twofold question. These are not conditions. Please note, the entire act uses the word conditions and restrictions. There is a difference between the word condition and restriction. A condition is which you need to fulfill to determine the eligibility. A restriction is a bar which says, even though you are eligible, even though you are entitled, I will not give it to you. I will not give it to you. These sections need to be tested judicially according to me. For the reason, these particular sections today provide a parentage to Rule 86B, which gave them power for blocking the credit. It's like the mother being born after the child. These particular provisions, which restrict the utilization of the credit, can be challenged on the ground that the right that I am entitled under 16 cannot be curtailed for utilization. The utilization cannot be restricted. Because once a right accrues to me, it becomes my property in terms of Article 300A. And therefore, of course, this restriction will not be for everybody. It will be for a class specified and prescribed as per the rules. It will not be for everybody. But these are what they will prescribe, and we'll have to wait for the rules to be notified in this regard. This is again another very important amendment. Okay. Section 50. I was also always of the opinion, right from day one, right from 2017, that this particular section does not provide for any mechanism or any machinery for payment of interest in case of any credit which has been taken wrongly. Because the section 50 bracket 1 provided that interest will be payable on any tax which remains unpaid. Tax unpaid would mean tax unpaid in cash and cash alone. If I have my liability of 100 and 80 is my credit, 20 rupees I owe to the government in cash. That amount alone will attract interest. Of course, there were challenges before the courts where the demand of interest was on gross amount. And the Bombay High Court also took a view, and subsequently the board also clarified, saying that no, it will be only on the net liability and not on the gross liability. And they introduced a proviso which they gave retrospective amendment to. Of course, that amendment was, according to me, is totally unnecessary. They took all the accolades, but it was totally unnecessary. A plain reading and a plain construction of section 50 bracket 1 clearly said the same thing. Be that as it may, they clarified. This amendment now, section 50 bracket 3, has been introduced for the first time, but this is being given retrospective effect right from July 2017, which provides for levy of interest on ITC wrongly availed and utilized. Now, as I told you earlier, interest will be payable only and only if there is utilization. Mere taking of the credit or mere availment of the credit will not be liable for interest. But if you see, there is a slight dichotomy. If you see clearly, there is a slight dichotomy between section 73 and 74 and the new section, that is section 53. Section 73 and 74 say that there could be a demand for credit wrongly availed or utilized. Wrongly availed or utilized. But if you see the language of section 53, it says wrongly availed and utilized. Okay. That dichotomy can be clearly answered because section 73 and 74 provide for recovery of the credit. Therefore, if you have wrongly availed also, you please reverse it. but interest will not be payable. Interest will not be payable. This section has been given retrospective effect right from 2017. These are the amendments under the GST law. Okay. Now customs, there are a very few amendments. Okay. This is one of the most important amendments. As I told you, all these amendments are to overcome rulings. To overcome rulings. I'll just give you a brief background. The very first judgment was the judgment in Syed Ali's case. Okay, where this issue was raised with the DRI officer. The officers of DRI is a proper officer having jurisdiction to issue a show cause notice. The Delhi High Court held that the DRI is not a proper officer for purpose of issuing a show cause notice. That was subsequently affirmed by the Supreme Court in Syed Ali's case. To overcome Syed Ali's case, they brought an amendment to section 2811, whereby they said that DRI is a proper officer. Again, it was challenged before the Delhi High Court in Mangli Impex case. In Mangli Impex, the Delhi High Court held the DRI will be a proper officer only for the purposes only post 2011. That is, after the amendment has been brought into effect. That amendment is not retrospective. Therefore, the show causes which are issued prior to 2011 will not survive in terms of this amendment. And ultimately went to Supreme Court. In the meantime, Canon India, a 3-judge bench of the Supreme Court explained that the DRI was not proper officer to exercise the powers under 28(4). Section 28 provides for issuance of a show cause notice by the proper officer. The proper officer means the very same person who had assessed you, who had assessed the bill of entry, who had done the assessment. So the very same person, that is the very same assessing officer, the same assistant commissioner or the deputy commissioner or the superintendent who had assessed you. DRI did not make any assessment, therefore they are not proper officer. Now to overrule, and rightly so, because if the Supreme Court holds all these DRI show causes will go on this ground itself. There are 10,000 crore, more than 10,000 crores of revenue involved. Okay, because we know what all cases DRI books. These are generally outright smuggling cases or they are outright fraud cases. Okay, I'm not saying they're actually so, but this is what is being claimed by the DRI, which is subject matter of trial. Be that as it may, they brought this amendment, and of course this amendment is also will date back, it's a retrospective amendment, to say that section 234 defines proper officer. They will include DRI officers. Section 5, where the powers of the board is there, that can be delegated to DRI. And therefore they feel they can issue a notice. But do these amendments really overrule or really overcome the lacuna pointed out by the Supreme Court in Cannon's case? According to me, still no. Still, it can be argued or contended by the SSC that Canon India Supreme Court will still prevail. Not only this, look at the provisions of the clause 96 of the bill. Validity to illegal actions. They are validating what was illegal. They are saying we are validating whatever show causes were issued by the DRI officers as valid, notwithstanding any judgment. Is this validity legal? According to me, no. You cannot validate an illegal impost. 1. 2. Certainly you cannot revive what is dead. So for example, let us take a case where any tribunal or the High Court or the Supreme Court took a view that DRI does not have jurisdiction to issue show cause notice and therefore the show cause notice was set aside or the appeal of the SSC was allowed. In those cases, this particular amendment will not revive those matters unless the revenue is in appeal in those matters and the revenue has kept their claims alive. In those cases only, or the show cause notices are pending even today, in those cases only the provisions of these particular act can be invoked and not otherwise. Yes, sir. Okay, sir. I have completed before time because these are a few amendments, but very drastic amendments brought. Okay, and with only time will tell that all of us, either as taxpayers or as advisors or as consultants, or as chartered accountants or as lawyers, advising taxpayers will face these issues today or tomorrow, sir. With these words, I would like to thank all of you for a kind and patient hearing.
Thank you very much, Bharat Bhai. It is always a pleasure to hear you. And over these years, you've been giving us in-depth analysis on the various aspects of amendments which affect us, which perhaps on our first reading we are not even able to, consider. I would request our convener of the budget committee, Advocate Renav Kaka, to make whatever announcements are there about the chambers program and propose a vote of thanks to Bharat Bhai and whole committee and the publication. Sir, we will be sharing our publication with you as usual. And I request Renav first to propose vote of thanks before we conclude.
Thank you, Yatin Bhai. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the patient listening so far for the 3 hours. Before I propose the vote of thanks, I have a couple of announcements about the future study circle events of MCTC and the budget publication as well. Firstly, about the future study circle events. On 13th Feb, Sunday, we have CA Nihalchan Jain, a young dynamic speaker from Mumbai, who would enlighten us on the topic of input mismatch in GST. And on the 20th of February, Sunday again, we have our past president, CA Jaiprakash Tiwari, to guide us with an introduction to blockchain and crypto. Both the events would be virtual events and the joining link shall be shared amongst the members soon. Just a line about the social cause that MCTC is working towards. Being a part of MCTC, I am proud to say that we are determined to work towards a very noble cause of spreading awareness about eye donation. We appeal to all our members and viewers to join us in this cause and spread a word about it. MCTC this year has also started a drive which helps us gift a membership of MCTC. In this way, one can help a new budding practitioner, for instance, to get connected to a network of professionals and gain knowledge about the taxation industry. Now for the pleasant task of the vote of thanks for Advocate Bharat Raichandani. Sir, budget since the last couple of years does not have many proposal and amendments for the indirect tax as such. But to be honest, every time you are speaking, it makes us realize that in spite of the few proposals, there is so much hidden in those amendments. So thank you, Bharat Bhai, for always making us feel that less is more.
Thank you.
Apart from this, I have a few more people to thank today for making this meeting a success. Firstly, I would like to give a special thanks to Central Council member of ICAI, CA Preeti Savla, for attending today's meeting and creating awareness about it in her circle of contacts. Thank you, ma'am. I would like to thank Goregaon Sports Club to be connected with MCTC since past few years to make this budget meeting a success. As our chairman sir has launched a budget publication today, I would like to thank the entire publication committee for making this publication a success for the 24th year in a row now. The compilation of this includes immense hard work of an entire team of compilers, coordinators, and most importantly, editors, who have been working day and night since the budget was announced on 1st February. It is their untiring efforts that have given shape to this beautiful publication today. Also, special thanks to CA MD Prajapati, our immediate past president, for once again allowing us to use his office premise from the 1st February till the budget compilation was sent for printing. I would also like to thank CA Yatin Rangwala, who is the chairman of our budget committee, for guiding us through this entire process. I would like to thank the advertisers for allowing us to publish their advertisements in our book. I would like to thank the printers of this publication, Krishna Pakwell, especially the designer Nishant Soni and Shailesh Bhai and his team, for always giving us this publication in a hard copy within just one day. I would also like to thank our photographer Ashok Bhatia ji, who has been always clicking photos of our budget meeting every year. The price of our budget publication has been fixed at rupees 120 per copy. We will have to give preference to the pre-bookings that we have received in the past few days. The publication can be collected from our allotted centers at Borivali, Kandivali, Malad, and Goregaon, the details of which can be sought from any of the office bearers. The contact details of our office bearers are displayed on the screen. Those who have not pre-booked and want to still avail the publication can also get in touch with the office bearers or reach out to us on maladchamber@gmail.com. We can also arrange to courier the book pan India with courier charges extra at actual. Now I request everyone to kindly join me conclude this meeting by rising up to our national anthem, please. Rajan.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending patiently and listening patiently.